Rob, thanks so much for just taking 10 minutes just to chat through a little bit of the project. It would be cool. Just tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about the business. Tell us about what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. So we're Scottish Shellfish. Business has been around for 30 years or 30 years plus. A group of mussel farmers started it off on the west coast of Scotland, distributing mussels to their local markets, restaurants and fishmongers, etc. And the idea to bring together their volume from different parts of the west coast of the country and bring it into a processing site, factory, and get into new markets. We've been successful with that over the last 30 years. So we now supply M&S, Aldi, Tesco, Co-op, Asda, pretty much every retailer throughout the UK.
It's really interesting. We got to go out and explore and get to meet these guys that are out, doing the work. But why did you decide video? What was the decision behind wanting that, and what was its purpose?
Yeah, what we were trying to do, and something that we've not done in the past to this level, to this extent, was we were looking at promotional content. We've got to a size where we are trying to obviously get to the next level when we look at our promotion. And we've carried out what's called an LCA study, which is life cycle analysis, over the last 2 years on our Scottish mussel farms and our oyster farms. One of the things that came out of that, which we were expecting, was a carbon footprint element. Our carbon footprint for mussels, which we now have literature and a full study done that will get journaled, is showing that carbon is extremely low. So that was a missing piece in our promotional content that has become very important and recognised within our customers and our consumers. But what we felt was missing was a video that we could use as a promotional tool to try and tie all that together. Something visual that we could use in different circumstances. And that's where we came to you. To be honest, we hadn't used anyone for video before, so it was difficult to know where to go. On this occasion, it was a recommendation, which, as we all know, is sometimes the best. Another business recommended to you, and we got in touch with you, and then led into briefing you exactly what we were looking to do. But you might come on to what we've done with the video, what we've been able to use. We've been at the Barcelona Seafood Show recently. We used the video as the backdrop to our stand, so we had that running throughout the 3 days of the show. And as we wanted and as we briefed you, very visual. It worked well. The time period that it lasts, a couple of minutes, was very visual. Doesn't need any volume to really tell the story, which is fantastic, and that's what we really wanted. And as we spoke about the emotion and the backdrop and everything that came from that. Basically.
It felt very much like the icing on the cake, or the thing that kind of brought the whole thing together. When we were chatting at the beginning in the kind of the briefing step, it was you had a very clear brief and exactly what you wanted us to go through. So can you talk a little bit about how you came up with that, and then kind of how we then kind of worked on it together, and then kind of how we delivered on that as well?
Yeah, I would say it was probably the hardest bit for us, but it turned out to be the best bit in the end because, again, you guys are the experts in doing this, and it's something that we're not very experienced in. So actually pulling a brief together it's not the easiest thing. Yes, you have an idea in your head, but trying to, and I think you helped with that, trying to fit that into how it would be done wasn't necessarily important. That's what you would do. So it took a bit of pressure off, trying to, how would you say it, almost write a script out for how it would be done in the film, whether it be the actual dialogue or the settings or the pictures, the visuals, which we felt we might have to do at the start, but you helped us to understand that what you're just trying to do is get a brief from us as to what messages we're trying to get across, and that was great, Alex, because this whole thing was about getting a message across. This whole thing was about getting our values across, and to be honest, when we thought about it, we had those values and we had those messages almost written down. So what you managed to do was take those messages and build the video backdrop into that, which turned out to worked well, basically.
Yeah, and it was a great few days. So we ended up going up to Mull, right, and spent kind of 3 days together. Only 2 days of shooting. I mean, we were blessed with incredible weather, so that made the whole video so much better. As you say, the backdrop, I mean, you know, it writes itself. You know, it looks stunning. So from our point of view, it was really just like, just make sure you press record. You know, a lot of it was just like, this looks great. Let the farmers do what they're going to do. Let's kind of zoom in on the kind of the crucial things. One thing that we did which was very kind of quite different and not what we'd done ever before was after we'd done the interviews, we sat down, had that conversation with the two folk that we had on. They were probably like half an hour, 40-minute conversations. And then Ross and I ended up actually kind of doing like a quick raw edit, right, of like the points. And then we sat and showed it. That was an interesting step to do that, like mid-edit. Like it wasn't edited. It was just like, these are the sentences. Are you happy with that? Was that like a good win? Because we'd not done that before. And actually it felt like a great middle step.
Yeah, I think coming back to the dialogue or the script part, I think you knew that I was a wee bit anxious with that, and I was trying to, you know, give you dialogue, as we said. You know, you said don't worry about that too much, you know, and we were anxious around that, that we would get all the messaging in, get the right lines, as we would see, into it to make sure that we got the message across. I think the most, I say enjoyable bit, but the best bit of what you did was to be able to sit down with the two farmers and just talk to them for an hour and get the content, which in hindsight is maybe only 30 seconds, 40 seconds dialogue, so you probably will get it from an hour, but it felt like such a natural way to do it, and it comes across, I think, with the farmers, that they're relaxed, and that they're having a bit of fun, and they're enjoying it, and comes across very natural, because I think the way you asked the questions and the way you got it from them, it was very natural. That, to be honest, was what I was most impressed with, and I got a wee bit of learnings out of that. You know, how you do things. You know, it's not always necessarily one way. I think you probably had it all there. I think you were probably just making us less anxious or more assured that we did have it. It assured me, but I think in hindsight, I think you had it anyway, and I think you would have been able to do it. I don't remember. Did we do any other takes?
No, we didn't.
You know, I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. And you know, credit to the farmers as well. They were great. You know, they actually came across really well. They said what they needed to say. I think Ross and I were chatting on the car on the way here, and we said like this was probably one of the most prepared shoots we've been to in terms of like the brief that you guys gave us was very detailed, which made our life 10 times easier. And then off the back of each of the key points that you guys had, the values, you know, we built out then 10, 15, 20 questions for each one to ask the farmers to get that kind of like this. Like we could just film this like a standard shot, but actually what we like is the conversational element, because there's so much like kind of you know, minutia that's lost in that. That you just get from it.
Just an answer.
Exactly. And so because we had that, we were then able to sit down with you and not only give you the confidence that you had it, but give us the confidence that you had confidence in us that we had it. And that was as important to us as well, to make sure that, as you say, we weren't coming away being like, hope we got it. You know, it was like, actually, this is on day 2. We've still got one more day. We can come back. We can grab anything we missed. But I think we went back one day and we got a little bit more drone footage and stuff that we didn't necessarily need, but ended up using, you know, so it was great. And as I say, the weather was great. So in terms of then we shot it, went home, got the edit together. Talk us through like the process of back and forth.
I think impressed again at how quickly you managed to do it. I know we were under a tight timescale, and the timescales I know were tight for you, particularly from when we were asking to the meeting. So impressed. The first edit came back, and again, when I first opened it, apprehensive, nervous to say the least, to see what was going to be there, because again, you can't go back into it. It's not down the road and can you just change this bit? It's sort of done and it's there. I'm sure you can change the editing but it was, we were very impressed. We were very happy we did make edits, we did make a few changes, but you sort of watch it, and the first time you watch it, you just let it flow over you a little bit. You're not looking at the detail, you're just trying to get that first impression. And the first impression was great, particularly the visuals, particularly the drone footage and the way that you'd linked it all together, and the way you made it run. And again, it followed the brief really well, Alex, that exactly what we said when we talked about the sustainability and the environmental and the provenance and the health, and everything was in there. So there was certainly nothing missing that was glaringly obvious from the first look at it. I was aware, though, that I felt that the more changes that we tried to put in, the more it would disrupt the overall first go of it.
Yeah.
And because I was so happy with the first go of it, I keep using this word anxious, but I actually became a bit more anxious about trying to change it too much, because we did a couple of edits, small edits, yeah, and it was more just about making sure that some of the wording was right and that make sure everything was included. But it was great, and you didn't know what was coming, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I think that is really fun, because I think a lot of people, we find that they feel like they have to change something so often. Yeah. And we always talk about this subjective versus objective change. It's like, if it's objective because it's missed a certain thing, or there's a shot that's like, oh, that maybe doesn't look how we would want it to look because it's breaking health and safety, or whatever that thing is, it's like, objectively, those should be removed or added, vice versa. But when it comes to subjective, because it's just like, well, I don't really like it, but I don't know why. That's like finding the line, right? Yeah, between when you go to edit it, it's like, is it an objective change and a subjective? And I think for you, all your edits were very much objective. It's like, we want this specific line in. Can we fit it in somewhere? Yeah. We want a specific shot of this thing because this thing relates to that. And from our point of view, we're like, we'll make as many objective changes as you like, because it's objective. It's not just like, oh, I don't really like the way his hair is in that. And it's like, what? So yeah, I mean, even for us, that those changes were fully manageable, and yeah, we knew that we were keeping to a time frame, so we were like, get that turned around, get it back out the door, so you guys can get it reviewed. So yeah, I mean, overall, we were delighted with the project. It was something a little bit different for us to do. We had a great time in Mull, which was also really fun. It was fun to get to know you and Carla a little bit better, and do a project that wasn't really within our usual remit. We'd done similar things, but a project like this was a little bit different, and so it was a really great opportunity to just go out and try it. So again, from us, a big thanks for putting your trust in us. It was a big one for us to do as well.
I would add that when we did present it, so we took it to we have a growers meeting every year, where we present to all the mussel members, and we presented the values presentation first, and then rounded it off with the video, and it actually got some applause at the end, which is rather unique for growers meeting. And one of the board members came up at the end and said that he felt quite emotional from it, seeing the video at the end. And, we'd spent a couple of days with the growers, so it was all about how they're getting on in mussel farming and how we're getting on. So to round it off like that, how they left, I think, was feeling proud of their business, proud of what they do, proud of what they grow, etc. And that was really our first briefing to you, was to try and make it emotional and give that impression across. And it certainly worked that way.
Yeah, amazing. Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about it. And hopefully we'll be on more mussel farms soon.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you.
Thanks.